We're gonna see a whole lot of either, I'm gonna give Linux a try for the first time. If you're a gamer though, you're not. You're gonna come back. You really are. Sorry, Linux. We tried. It was okay-ish, but not for the gaming side. It just truly not a gaming platform. It is a nerd tinkering, tweaking. I love playing around with the kernel, just customizing it. But that's the game, not games itself. Anyway, but we.
Okay, so today I'll be talking about why gaming on Linux is viable, and I will be cleaning up some misinformation that J2Cents has been spreading. I'm not trying to bully him, I just want to give some pointers and criticisms on things that he went about wrong, and certain things where he screwed up and it wasn't really Linux fault, along with some misinformation that he actually has been spreading. Okay, now let me give a little bit of context. So a few months ago, he made a video of trying where he went about the video and he installed a Linux distro and he went with Beside as his choice as distro. And in the video, he went for a full AMD build, which if you're gaming on Linux or doing anything on Linux is actually the smartest way to go about, even though NVIDIA has gotten a lot better, especially for the 5000 series, but that has to do something more with like how AI is being made on Linux. So now NVIDIA is not really treating Linux like a second-class citizen, but that's a topic all its own. Anyways, I had high hopes for this because I was like, this is cool. This is an influencer I actually grew up watching, and now he's trying Linux. So he was definitely into the Linux war, and I got really excited over it. And in the beginning of the video, he seemed like really excited and like he really liked Linux for gaming until it came to the time where he decided to have the great idea to install Linux in the same drive that he installed Windows, even though his community told him that this wasn't a good idea and you should never do this. And as he's known to do, he refused to listen to his community. And then after that, his whole mood changed and like everything just changed. He became really salty throughout the video and then went out to his way and say that Linux is actually not viable or a good alternative for Windows since Windows 10 is coming to the end of life soon. And I'm going to tell you just right out the bat, he's actually wrong and there's a lot of misinformation that I want to clean up. And he's not just wrong.
You're not just wrong, you're stupid.
Now that said, Linux is a really good alternative for operating system, but like every operating system, Linux is not perfect. There is some trade-offs, so I'm not going to just sugarcoat everything for you. Not everything is rainbow and sunshines. But I think overall the trade-offs are really worth it, and like every operating system is the same. Like for example, the first time you use Windows, you didn't know exactly how to use Windows. You didn't when you first get in Windows, you don't know about H keys. You don't know how to optimize it or do all this. It's the same thing with every operating system. There's always going to be a learning curve, and that just applies to everything that you do in life. And I don't even know if this generation of PC gamers even know what H keys are and about that optimization on Windows, because I feel like now it's like I remember okay, I don't want to get off topic, but I remember there was a time where if you were on PC, if you're a PC user or especially a gamer, you really knew your machine. You had to know about computers. Now we just have more normies joining, I guess. It's not a bad thing, but I just miss that part where everyone just knew about computers. So I'll be going back to J2Cents. I'll be going through this video. I'm gonna be pointing out things he got wrong, things that he got right or partially right. I'll just be clearing that up. So if you do decide that you want to make the switch to Linux, you don't make the same mistakes. Now, first thing is first. People expect an operating system to perform exactly like the other one, and every operating system does have a learning curve. A learning curve, and they all will have trade-offs the same way as how when you first use Windows, it's a different process of optimizing it and how to use it as compared to macOS. Or if you're on Windows, you're switching to macOS or vice versa. This is always going to be a concept in everything that you do in life. There will be a learning curve, but the core idea of what you're doing in the system is kind of like the same concept. It's just there's different process of doing it. Like tweaking a system to optimize it for gaming or whatever you're doing in your field or whatever you're trying to use it for will be different on Windows and Mac or any operating system. Yeah, some things might be the same. Certain apps, certain things are going to be the same to do, but only because something is similar to a different operating system doesn't mean that you could go in fully expecting to work exactly like it. So why am I trying to get to all this? Because I feel like I'm beating around with the bush. The thing is, okay, so he installed an operating system that goes by the name Beside, and he messed up his Beside installation on an operating system that is mutable and it's actually supposed to be for gamers and like beginner friendly. And I don't want to put the blame fully on him. Yes, he did not read before accepting something the same way that Linus Tech Tips did, while even knowing what it means, what you're agreeing to. But at the same time, I don't want to fully blame him because Beside does advertise themselves as the beginner friendly gamer distro. And if you're going to advertise yourself on an operating system like that, you got to make sure that the person using it can't break that operating system unless they enable some sort of mode like developer mode, the same way that SteamOS does. So at the same time, it kind of falls a little bit on Beside, but at the same time, hey, when I was in Windows, if something came out on the screen, I would read it before I accept it. I didn't just accept things brainlessly. So first things is first, I want to correct a record for some things that J2Sense was claiming, and he was claiming that when he compared Windows to Linux, under Linux they're actually losing when it came to regular like gaming, like let's say without ray tracing, you're losing about 40% performance under Linux, which this is not true, and I've ran these tests plenty of times, and I'll show you that a little bit later. And when it came to ray tracing, you're losing about 55% FPS under Linux, which is completely not true, and I'll prove that. But let me say something. So he was under what was the GPU? Yeah, he was under AMD GPU, so he has an advantage over me. And I could tell you that I've tested proprietary drivers before when I used to use 4000 series NVIDIA GPUs and under. Usually for regular performance without the ray tracing, I usually got like 1 frame less under Linux or 1 frame more over Windows on some games, but the freaking performance was like parallel. Now, when it came to ray tracing did get a performance hit, but it's not as detrimental as what he's claiming. So my experience under Linux as compared to Windows, when it comes to Linux under ray tracing, I usually use from 4 to 7 frames per second. 10 at the max if it's like one of those games that don't want to run well, but that's not the case now because most games nowadays run this neck to neck with Windows, and other instances even better. For example, right here, I'm going to be showing you guys the benchmark for, well, not, well, yeah, benchmark, I guess you could call it. So I'm going to be comparing Windows and Linux using the same settings, same everything. And this is the game Expedition 33. I want to use this game because this game is under Unreal Engine 5, I think. Yeah, Unreal Engine 5. And I think that this is a really good example to show performance because this is a game that's really like graphically intensive. So I think it's a good example. Anyways, here we go. Just keep in mind, under both of these benchmarks, both on Windows and Linux, I'm running the RT and NVIDIA card over with the open source drivers. Sorry, I can't talk. I'm on way too much caffeine. I can't think. Anyway, here's the comparison. Okay, so here we got Expedition 33, and as you can see, same GPU, same specs, same everything, and the game is actually outperforming Windows by quite a lot. Now, this might be different reasons, might be because I'm on the open source drivers and whatnot, but look at the performance. And if not, I'll say that the fidelity even looks better under Linux. What the fuck? I did not know that. I always thought that the fidelity on Linux always looks worse, but I guess I was wrong about that. It looks crystal clear. Holy shit. Anyway, we need to test more games out because this wouldn't be fair for Windows. And you know what's the thing? I actually even gave the advantage to Windows because Windows was in an area where less graphics had to load. And even that, Linux somehow still manages to outperform it. Holy shit, I'm actually really shocked because I've never compared both of this operating system. I was always under the impression that Windows actually outperformed this game. But as you see, I ran those benchmark and somehow it's outperforming. And it's the same setting, same graphics card, same version of drivers, is all running exactly the same. Now, keep in mind, this expedition game, this is basically without ray tracing because I wanted to dive in right quick into like no ray tracing, and then we're gonna show a game that goes really intense when it comes to ray tracing. So for our next game, we're actually gonna try Cyberpunk. I don't know. Maybe I'm still gonna do Cyberpunk, but I'm thinking I got to check if Expedition 33 actually has ray tracing because if it does have ray tracing, I'm actually curious to compare both of those also. Never mind, I'm not gonna do that because this game performs too well on Linux, and I actually want to compare other games, not just this game. I want to have a more of a fair advantage, and I don't want to just test one game. So yeah, let's go with Cyberpunk. Okay, never mind what I said. I actually found someone who actually did the benchmarks and exactly the same operating system that he was running, J2Cents, and the same spec. So I think this one will make even a better point because I don't have that much time right now. So here right now, someone did the benchmarks and they compare them side by side. Okay, so right here for Cyberpunk, apparently Beside is getting 82 at minimum, usually 84 on Windows 11, while on average, Cyberpunk is getting 99 frames, while Windows is getting 104 frames, which is about 2.38 FPS difference, and on average 4.81, which is not really that much of a difference. And when it comes to Doom is actually performing 58 at minimum, average 110. And then on Windows, holy shit, why is Windows 2? What the fuck? Oh, okay, so that means like 2% less to 120. So if you could see, like, even in ray tracing, that's like what? 8.33% less frames per second under Linux, which is not that detrimental. I mean, I would say certain things about ray tracing in a second. I will partially agree with this on J2Cents. If you're a person who actually cares about ray tracing, then Linux might not be ready for you. But for my view and what I've noticed and myself as a gamer, a lot of people don't really use ray tracing because it's such it kills your performance so bad. I don't even bother with it anymore. And a lot of games don't really do it well. Cyberpunk does it really well, but most games, the way they imply ray tracing, they make the game look uglier, which is why I stay away from it. When it comes to games like Cyberpunk, yeah, I put it on because it looks freaking beautiful. Like, I mean, ray tracing has gotten better under Linux, but it's not perfect. It's not all the way there. But even if you do want to run it, it's not that much of a difference as compared to Windows. You're not losing that much performance to the point it's like, oh, I can't do this. It's too much FPS loss. It's not that bad when you look at it on paper. But if that bothers you, well, you do you. You know, do whatever you want. I mean, to me personally, it doesn't really bother me, considering I rarely use ray tracing. On some rare occasions I do. Studios that actually do it right. Now, his next point was kernel level anti-cheat. Now, this is a topic I've talked about plenty of times. It's probably one of my favorite topics. And when it comes to games like League of Legends, Valorant, Apex Legends, there's been games with kernel level anti-cheat that work, like, Apex Legends at one point, and some games on Steam. But see, the thing is, Linux is not the issue when it comes to this topic. It's usually the developers of the game that don't want to support the game because either they see the platform too little, or like Apex Legends that say, hey, oh, so you guys are a bunch of cheaters, but in reality, it was a bunch of Windows users spoofing as Linux. I'll admit, when it comes to single player, if the game is too hard, I'll cheat, but I'm not gonna cheat in an online game. That's just scummy. And even when Apex Legends used to run under Linux, you will be surprised. I've played this game live plenty of times on stream, and this game actually ends up performing better under Linux when it was around and we are able to play it. which kind of tells me that when kernel level anti-cheat, it's made for Linux and it's supported for Linux. The games usually end up running better under Linux because it's not as much bloat as Windows. And yeah, for some of you guys that play Call of Duty or those type of games, this might be an issue, and that's completely understandable. There's no really shame to go about that. But in reality, if games support it, it'll be even a better experience under Linux. And this over time will go away as Linux becomes more popular. As we can see, there's a spike of Linux users lately. So in the future, this will become less as a problem as time passes. And yes, in case you didn't know, kernel level anti-cheat, it is a thing that's possible under Linux. It's just developers don't want to spend the time or the money in it because they see us as a minority. But as gaming, it's getting well. I wouldn't say I get confused between topics. I overthink things. Anyway, so what was my point? Oh yeah, my point was that when it comes to the 5000 series drivers, these are actually getting better. And the whole reason that Nvidia prioritized Linux this one time and actually made the drivers really good is because AI is actually being developed under Linux, which is why we got such good drivers now for like modern GPUs. And on accident, we got better gaming performance overall. So Nvidia is not no longer treating Linux as a second class citizen when it comes to the drivers. And as time goes on, it's only going to get better under Linux, and we could see even more people switching every day. So again, this thing with J2Sense, this is one of those topics that I partially disagree, but I more disagree with him than anything because he tries to paint it out like Linux is the problem, but it's not the problem. That's just developers. That's has nothing to do with Linux because we've seen time again and again that somewhere, especially like smaller studios that have multiplayer games, do allow Linux even with anti-cheat, even kernel level anti-cheat. It is possible. Okay, so another issue that J2Sense pointed out was the software availability under Linux. And yes, there is issues, but that has to do more with like developers not wanting to support the platform. But there is alternatives that are even better and they are free. For example, I used to use Photoshop, and yeah, Photoshop was really good, and that was one of the things in the past that was actually holding me back from actually moving to Linux. But then I found these alternatives called GIMP and Krita, and together I basically do everything that I could do in Photoshop. If not, I think it's better in some ways. But yeah, when it comes to video editors, I used to use Adobe Premiere and I didn't even know what DaVinci Resolve was. And then I tried their free version, which you could use as long as you want. And I liked it so much that I ended up freaking buying a license. And the thing with DaVinci Resolve, unlike Adobe Premiere, where you got to pay every month, and if you want to unsubscribe, you got to pay a fee too. With DaVinci Resolve, you pay for it once, the license is yours, and you get to keep it forever. So in that area, I had a pretty easy transition, and if you're already on Windows using DaVinci Resolve, you're gonna transition even easier because DaVinci Resolve offered things that Adobe Premiere doesn't have, and they're behind in some things. And not only that, it runs better under Linux. Like I've never regretted that part. And yeah, so a lot of these softwares, they have alternatives to them that are actually free. And yeah, because I remember GIMP and stuff. I'm like, holy shit, I'm such an idiot. I paid for Photoshop this whole time. Now, I will say something when it comes to software availability. If you're one of the devs that develops games and you want to develop games under Linux, then you're gonna be limited because there's better tools out there that are only available to Windows until the developers start supporting the platform and Linux grows as a operating system. They're not really going to support those, and it depends what type of game you're making. Like if you're making something more like modern and more intense, those tools are not available. There is workarounds, but it's just not going to be it. I remember at one point Linux used to be the best place to develop, games, but that has changed because those softwares are no a lot of the really good software back in the days, they still work, but now there's, like, new stuff and a lot of platforms, t they don't wanna support Linux, basically. Now, I will say one thing, I've had people that I've helped move to Linux and that work in, like, audio production, podcasts, and, like, making music, and they have told me that when it comes to audio and those softwares, under Linux, they end up finding softwares that are even better than the ones that you will get under Windows that are exclusively to Linux. And they're free, and they're like, wow, I'm actually surprised. And that's one thing that actually surprised me about Linux, that when it comes to like softwares for, audio production, they're so good. But other than that, so yeah, I'll give it to J2Sense when it comes to software. Yeah, most of the things he kind of like, there's an alternative that if not works even better. But when it comes to game development, that I'll partially agree with. When it comes to make games, then yeah, you're gonna run into some issues. But other than that, you're gonna pretty much have a flawless experience. It's just a matter of fact of like learning that curve. Like I remember when I used to do like my whole like content creation workflow under Windows, on the window, fuck, that's not what I meant. Anyway, when I was doing my whole workflow and I switched to Linux, at first, yeah, it was hard because I had to like learn new things. But when I got used to that, I actually like working on my workflow was even faster and better under Linux. Without notifications distracting me or anything, and things just come out better overall. So I remember I decided to go back to Windows after a time to see if I liked it better, and I ended up getting really annoyed with Windows. At one point, I just deleted it completely. I never looked back. So things it's just adapting and like learning new things, which is something you always got to do in different circumstances. But once I actually learned Linux, I never even wanted to go back. I just stuck with it. Now, the final point that he made was actually hardware. Now, I haven't had this experience personally, hardware out of the box, most of it works well. There's usually drivers, but there is some hardware, like especially when it comes to certain capture cards, that they don't have drivers provided to Linux because they don't want to support this platform. But the community actually makes their own drivers. So if you really want to search out, there is workarounds and you can actually get these drivers, or you could also get a capture card that's actually supported by Linux. A lot of times you could get a capture card by a different brand that have the same specs and works equally as good. So that's usually not an issue when it comes to capture cards. You could just like get one that's compatible or use this custom drivers that the community makes. That's one thing that's good about Linux. The community, when there's an issue with something, they come together and they come out with a solution. So yeah. Also notice another thing when it comes, like, if you're to buy a piece of hardware that's actually made for Linux, it's really nice because a lot of the times those hardware will have the same specs as it has the exact same specs as the more high tier one, and you'll end up paying a way less price than you would for like that other brand. So yeah, Linux is not perfect like every operating system. There's always going to be one of those constant things. I'll admit it's not perfect, but there's workarounds. The solutions are not perfect, but hey, they're there, and a lot of the things work. It's just a matter of fact of actually learning. But if you really want to break away from Windows, then yeah, Linux is actually a viable way to go. And there's more and more. And Linux is one of those operating system that you never stop learning. You just keep learning more and more. It's such a good experience. And yeah, you don't have to switch to Linux. So if you're curious about it, what you could do a boot and then, slowly learn it and slowly dive in. You don't gotta just like dive in right away. And yeah, sometimes freedom does come at some costs. Like for example, I've noticed that a lot of YouTubers that do like distro hopping, one of their things that they say that freedom is like a double-edged sword because freedom, yes, freedom is nice, but then when you get freedom, there's too many options, and you just gotta experiment, and find what works for you. Like, if you really wanna be a power user and you really wanna take control of machines, the tools are there for you. You can just go. And again, the statement he said with Linux is not for gaming, like, it's not good for gaming and it pretty much sucks. That's the biggest lie that you coulda tell anyone because it clearly works. And the thing is the Steam Deck is selling like crazy, so the Steam Deck is selling for a reason. It's not selling because it performs bad. It's selling because it actually performs really well, and it's a good platform to actually game on. If it was so bad, then I guess the Steam Deck wouldn't even sell as much as it does. So yeah, Linux is viable for gaming and other things. It's just a matter of fact of learning it, like I said. At the end of the day, it's your decision. You choose what you want to do with your machine. It's up to you. just don't let no one pressure you into actually joining it. Do it at your own pace. Ask questions. That's one of the reasons I make this channel, because I noticed that Windows has a lot of tutorials, but when it comes to the Linux sphere, I know some people are more like visual learners, so I make this channel to actually educate people. As always, if you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know about what you think about this whole situation about J2Sense. Do you have problems with Linux? What do you don't like about Linux? What do you like about Linux? Things like that, or problems that you could have, and maybe I could help you guys solve the problem or stuff, or what was the hardest thing? What's your opinion on the whole matter? Anyways, as always, you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave me a like, and until next time, as always, stay spooky, stay weird.
Dim, dam, dadilam, vacarme s'en va dans l'oubli éternam. Et Gustave, dom guardiam, dilim, dididididam, lutes sera dodilom, seram. Dim, dim, da da da, dim, dim, da da da, dim, da di dam. Dim dim da 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 dim dim da 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 dim